Men. These are not 5-year-olds.
That's absolutely right. And what a window this is on some of the tensions that are percolating in the background here at the White House and elsewhere. George Conway, as you know, a top shelf conservative lawyer of his own right, married to Kellyanne Conway, who is a top advisor to the President of the United States. They've been engaged in this back and forth Twitter war after the president, of course, had his tweet storm over the weekend. George Conway questioning the president's mental fitness, the president firing back, and in a very extraordinary way, actually getting inside the marriage of one of his subordinates here at the White House, which is extraordinary in and of itself. And then you add in the fact that the president has 59.2 million followers on Twitter. It's a real window. So George Conway this morning responding to the president's tweet with 3 words punctuated by periods: "You are nuts." He also responded in an interview with the Washington Post, and talking about this a little bit, I'll just read it for you. "The mendacity, the incompetence is just maddening to watch. The tweeting is just the way to get it out of the way so I can get it off my chest and move on with my life that day. That's basically it. Frankly, it's so I don't end up screaming at her about it," presumably talking about Kellyanne Conway. So the president has referred to George Conway as Mr. Kellyanne Conway, and has suggested as well that George Conway very much wanted a job in this administration. Conway seems to deny that, suggesting that he withdrew himself from consideration for the job here, which I believe was the Solicitor General's job. Back to you.
Yeah, Joe John, thank you so much. We do have that letter. The Washington Post just obtained this letter. It was in May of 2017 to the president. Let me read it to you. "Dear Mr. President, I'm profoundly grateful to you and the Attorney General for selecting me to serve as Assistant U.S. Attorney General for the Civil Division of the Department of Justice. I've reluctantly concluded, however, that for me and my family, this is not the right time for me to leave the private sector and take on a new role. Kellyanne and I continue to support you and your administration. I look forward to doing whatever I can from outside of government." That was, just about 2 years ago. So the president's top advisor, George Conway's wife, Kellyanne Conway, sat down for a wide-ranging interview recently with our Dana Bash. It's part of her Badass Women of Washington series. This was back in February, of course, before all of this latest back and forth between George Conway and the president. And Dana asked her about the back and forth between her and her husband and the president. Then, watch.
Now we have a president who's actually criticized his own attorney general.
Watch TV and Twitter lately, and one of Trump's most vicious critics is her own husband, George, striking hard and deep with his latest attack on the president's mental state, calling it narcissistic personality disorder.
No, I don't share those concerns, and I have 4 kids, and I was getting them out of the house this morning before I got here, and talked to the president about substance. So
we spoke before the latest drama, but well after her husband started going after her boss, which she says she didn't see coming.
George was so excited, literally crying with joy in his MAGA hat, black not red, but his MAGA hat on election night. And so in that way, he's changed. He's changed his opinion on, I guess, matters or the presidency, but I haven't, and Donald Trump hasn't.
You mean Mr. Kellyanne Conway?
The day that he was out on the South Lawn and he called George Mr. Kellyanne Conway struck me. Sounded like he was sending a message.
I thought it was him being Donald J. Trump. It was clever. It's an unusual situation, especially in politics or Washington, and certainly in Republican politics, for a husband to get his notoriety and power through his wife. It's usually the other way around. It's funny because people say, "Jordan, you should come to Harvard and speak, side by side, and you should do that." And I think, oh, okay, but then I'd have to give him my power.
The president and top allies, restrained before, are stepping up their response to George Conway on Twitter and rallying around her personally as a mother of 4 children.
These children, they're now 14, 10, and 9. And so they're all old enough to read everything, and they're all old enough to have embraced DC as home, which took a while, especially for one of my children. It took a long time because
it's a tough age to move.
It's a tough age to move down it, and let's face it, it is the rare occasion where a family is moving for mom's job.
All right, that interview says so much, even the fact that it happened before the latest back and forth. Jackie Kucinich is with me, the D.C. bureau chief for the Daily Beast, and USA Today columnist Kirsten Powers. Good morning, ladies, to you both. I'd actually like to start with what I think is so relevant and important this morning, and that is what Republican Senator of Georgia, the senior Republican Senator Johnny Isakson, is saying here and doing and standing up to the president on. Kirsten Powers, the rebuke from this Republican senator, it's really just him, this publicly and this forcefully right now, via Mitt Romney and a few others. I wonder if you think he will be followed by the majority of Republicans in Congress.
I would be surprised if he is. I don't think that we've seen a lot of appetite in the Republican Party for going after Donald Trump, especially publicly criticizing him because of the backlash that they suffer. I mean, we see what's happening right now with Kellyanne Conway's husband, George Conway. That's sort of the treatment that people get when they're critical of the president. And so I think that he has intimidated them into staying silent for the most part.
Jackie, politically, does the president think that these attacks on John McCain actually help him, or does he not care?
I don't know that there's a lot of forethought here when it comes to attacking John McCain. It's pretty clear the president doesn't like him, and there's never been a resolution. The president couldn't really win in this situation. John McCain had the last word. Mm-hmm. So the president is known to hold grudges, and this just seems to be a continuation of that he just can't let go. The fact that McCain sank the health care bill. Obviously, this goes on well before that happened. But I think the fact that John McCain got the better of him, the president can't let it go.
Yeah, with just a thumbs down, right? That's all it
Right.
took. But just sticking on that point, Kirsten, for a moment, I mean, the thing is, this is far from the first time that the president has attacked John McCain so publicly, so viciously, before his death, while he was fighting for his life, and now after. And there's a new CNN poll out this morning that shows nearly 8 in 10 Republicans say the president is the one with the best shot of winning in 2020. In terms of all of the other Republicans who could run, it's a president who has the best shot, and that they are supportive of the president. I think 76% support of the president.
Yeah.
So, I mean, isn't that evidence that politically this doesn't hurt the president?
Well, it seems to not hurt him. I mean, there's also in that poll that 57% of Republican voters are very excited about
Yes.
voting, and that says a lot about the support for the president, that they feel so excited about going out and reelecting him. So I think that you'd have to ask a Republican to explain this, because truly it's mystifying to me. There are some just basic decency issues in the world, and one of them is you don't attack people who have just died really for no reason. That's the other thing. Like, what's the current problem that John McCain is causing from the grave, right? It's
Right.
just there's not even a reason to be talking about. It's just gratuitous. It's hurtful to his family, which is a family that has been dedicated to serving this country. So it's like I said, you'll have to ask a Republican to explain this to me.
Well, the question, Jackie, can be, is the president sort of haunted by the shadow of John McCain and what he represents in terms of sort of Republican civility?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just an old grudge that the president, he can't get beyond John McCain. And, your question to Kirsten, I think, Republicans I've spoken to that are outside of D.C., they'll say they don't like when the president does this sort of thing. They don't like when the president is uncivil. But what they'll point to is his agenda and some of the things that he's actually been able to accomplish, and the things that he represents in terms of their core beliefs. And this other stuff, does it discourage? Is it discouraging? Yeah, it is. But I think they just keep on going back. Again, this is just the folks I've spoken to.
But can I just say something about that, though?
Of course.
I'm just reporting what I
Oh, no, and I agree. I hear the same thing. I mean, that's what you hear all the time. But that would explain people saying, yeah, I'm going to vote for him again. I don't really want to. He really upsets me with how indecent he is to other people, or bigoted things he says. And so, yeah, I'll vote for him. It doesn't explain 57% of people being very excited voting for him, right?